Okay, so an introduction to our engagement steps. I think probably where the best place to start is at the beginning. So a little bit about B Squared. Some of you may have heard of us previously. Some of you have never heard of us at all. So we've been about for about 20 years now. And the lady that set the company up, I mean, she no longer kind of actively works, but she was a special needs teacher for about 30 years. And she created an initial breakdown to help show small amounts of progress. And we're talking kind of before there really was anything. And it kind of started off on paper. It went to software in around 2000, 2001, and you know, we're now at that kind of point where we're all web-based, we're online, and we're accessible, and we can, you know, we're available across the world, and we are used internationally. And we have about 40,000 teaching staff worldwide that are using us, and they are in kind of a lot of countries around the world. And it's to the point now we get used so much. We're getting around 500,000 assessment points used, added into our system every week. So it's a significant usage, and we have, you know, masses of frameworks now. When we started off just doing core, but now we do all the subjects and we do all different areas. So we've learned a lot. We may have made mistakes in the past, but we've learned a lot in that time as we've kind of gone through. So just a kind of a little bit of background into how things have moved forward. So some of you will be kind of painfully aware of all of this. So 1988 saw the introduction of the national curriculum. I think that was probably my first year of primary school at that time. And then 91, the SATs came in, and then the levels were kind of introduced in 1992. And it kind of saw another 7 years after that before the P levels were introduced, which was about a year after we kind of went into business. And they've been reviewed over time, and we had the national strategies come in. And obviously the big change was in 2014 with the new national curriculum. Okay, sorry, I'm just reading through. Voice not clear. It may be connection. So yeah, we had the introduction of the new national curriculum, which removed the levels. So, you know, at the time, some of you may have thought, you know, what were you going to do for children working below this point? Thankfully, the Rochford Review was launched, and okay, sorry, there's some people that can't hear. Let me just ask. So, Doug, can you hear? Yeah. Okay. So that's fine. So it's not a problem our end. There's some other people might be able to help you. That they're going to may ask you individual questions. So the Rochford Review was launched, which sought to deal with that mainly. The point being that you know, the removal of levels, which technically speaking didn't happen at that point because they still had P levels. What was going to happen with that? And we're now at that point where some point down the line, the government have now responded, at least in part, to what's going to happen next. The bit that we're kind of interested in today is kind of the P1 to P4. So back in 2014, when they changed the national curriculum, you know, we had a decision on what we needed to do. So no one really knew what we should do, and we had to do something. So at that point, we did two different breakdowns. We did one to do end of year outcomes, and we did one that introduced a kind of familiar structure to help show that small amount of progress. Something somewhat controversially at the time as well, what we did was we reinterpreted the P scales based on the new national curriculum content, which was the whole issue with the P levels, because they were designed to be used in conjunction with the new national curriculum, or with the national curriculum. The fact that one changed, then the other should have changed, and it didn't. So the Rochford Review comes in and it makes its suggestions. What we also identified at that time was that our P1 to P32 wasn't really meeting the needs of certain students, particularly kind of PMLD, SLD students. And we had a lot of feedback in the past from schools who have predominantly have children with these needs. And it was a bit of a learning curve for us, and we had ideas on what we wanted to do. And bear in mind, this is back in 2014, before the Rochford Review came out. Okay. So the kind of the key points from the Rochford Review on our side were the P scale is not fit for purpose, which we kind of agree with. The age-related expectation is not appropriate for a significant portion of pupils working below. And I think that's a very important statement. I think that gave a lot of guidance to a lot of people about what they should do, because there was this, I mean, certainly our experience, a lot of schools saying, well, we need to use end of year outcomes for these students. And we're going, no, it doesn't work. So a lot of the things that we had thought had been kind of ratified, and it was good. And we'd already made a good stake in what we were doing next, because we get these documents the same time as you, and we have to move. That's what we have to adapt, because as soon as it becomes statutory, then you're going to want to use it straight away. So bearing in mind that obviously the Rochford Review's guidance was to move towards the 4 broad areas of need and the 7 areas of engagement for children working kind of around the old area of P1 to P4, we had to start making those changes, which we did. And as it kind of stood, we had already started doing this. So we were working on something called developmental continuum. We were working with a few schools around this, and it was going to be around the areas of cognition, affection, operation, and communication. The Rochford Review comes in, makes their suggestions, and it wasn't a big leap for us to make the changes for what we had done to fit in with the suggestions of the Rochford Review, specifically around kind of engagement P1 to P4. So what we have now done is what we're calling our engagement steps. So we work. This has been a 3-year project, and we have put it out to trial, and we've had some very positive feedback come back from it, and schools are actively using this right now. I think the important thing to remember is that the government are currently trialling this particular approach, and we will be as adaptable as we can to whatever changes. So not even we know what's going to kind of come out of this, but generally speaking, what people have said, it's been kind of very positive, and people have said that they've been able to use it quite effectively in their setting. So it goes across the areas of cognition and learning, and then we have the engagement in there. So there's the 7. We have the 7 areas of engagement there. But additionally, we have communication, interaction, the sensory and the physical, and the social, emotional, mental health. And that is ready to go. What we're also kind of keen on is that it fit in with your EHCPs, which it does, and that we recognise that non-linear progress. That was also important to us, which we think we've been able to do, and you will be able to use our system in order to show that. So if I just, as an example, some of you may have looked at some of our sample pages in the past, but just to give you an idea of what it looks like, if I log in, it looks like some people have managed to get their audio sorted. Excellent. So if I go to individual assessments, so change this to engagement steps. So here we have the 4 broad areas of need, so cognition and learning, and then we have the 7 areas of engagement. So roughly it runs from P1 to P6. We, as an equivalence, we decided to take a little bit higher. The Rochford Review suggested kind of up to around P4. We wanted to take it to P6, and that was based on a lot of feedback we got from customers, because I think it's that question of, if that child hits P4 but in one specific area and you're not keen for them to move on, you don't think they're ready, you don't have to make that hard choice to move them to subject specific. You can say, well, okay, we can continue until they're ready holistically. So if I take a step 4, for example, and we look at this, so this is what we've done to kind of break this down. So we have lots of skills in here that help kind of show that progress, and we work on a percentage based system. So each of the steps is broken down into assessment points, and each of those is attributed a particular percentage, and then in each level they kind of move on in a logical fashion. The ones that are here because of our research, because of our time, because of our experience. We put them there. What's really kind of effective for students working at these levels is it's not binary in its approach. It's not a case of a child can or can't do something. We actually have a scale that can actually show you a very, very small amount of progress. So, for example, I can go for an encounter, and then I could maybe 6 weeks later, or even a term later, whatever, could go to an awareness. And if I go to the history, I can actually see that originally it was an encounter, and then it went to an awareness. So typically speaking, that could be as little as a change in breathing. That's the kind of detail that we can show. So if you're looking to show that level of detail, that's something that we can do. If you have used B squared before, it may have come across that we kind of trap you in a particular point. I think the key thing that we're pushing right now is that we don't trap you in a particular step. That's not how we work. You can work on as many steps as you like. Students don't learn in that fashion, and nor should we restrict you in that way. We can show progress in a multitude of different ways. It's not just driven by this figure here. We have lots of different reports that will actually show that. So you have the scale here. You can use it, and you can show that progress. And I'm just going to flick back to my PowerPoint just to show you kind of what else we can do. So obviously we have the engagement steps, but we have a lot of other things here. This kind of non-subject specific engagement steps fits in here with the rest of everything else that we're doing. You can actually use it from birth all the way up through to 25 if that's the need of the child, then that's what you do. We do have lots of other things that we're doing around this, which we will probably cover in other webinars in the future. The Steps for Life is a big undertaking which we're doing, which will kind of cover the post-16 life skills kind of topics. So if I move on, just to kind of go back to what I was showing you earlier, we can show progress in the increase in how the levels of engagement increase. So here I've got two pie charts. The first pie chart is on the 1st of the 9th, 2017. The second is on the 26th of the 3rd, 2018. And what it's showing me for a particular step with all those points is what percentage are mastered, what portion are gaining skills, and so on and so forth. So you can actually see across time how that profile changes. It could be the case that actually the masters don't change whatsoever, but you can then show progress and say, well, look, their gaining skills has increased over time, and they have much more breadth of that particular area. So we're kind of hot on trying to help schools and help teachers show that very, very small amount of progress where they need to, where they struggle already. Okay. In terms of kind of rolling that data out and how you can kind of communicate it effectively to Ofsted, for example, or even to parents, we can show non-linear progress across multiple levels. So like I said earlier, we can work across multiple steps. So here I have step 3, and I can see a very small amount of progress here at the end. But in step 4, I also have progress, and in step 5, I have progress as well. So kind of sticking that on the top and kind of sandwiching it all together, yes, I could turn around and say, well, potentially they went from about 58% to, what's that, 78%, but actually if I take into account the skills that they've gained in every area, it's that progress is significantly more. So it's important that we can show that, and we have a whole analysis package that can kind of take you a step further and help you show that progress across multiple levels. So yeah, in terms of kind of meaningful communication, again, we spend a lot of time out with schools, all across the country. And we hear a lot of things. I mean, my wife's a teacher, and she says she comes back with different things, and I have to question her about it. But it's kind of how you communicate where a student's at. So, you've got below age-related expectation, whether they're at expected. In terms of us, it's made 20% progress. There's a whole range of terms there that we hear all the time. What's interesting is there are many times when they can be inferred in different ways, and it's kind of making sure that when you say these things, it's making sure that it is meaningful and that people understand it and they don't require any additional information on top of that. But communicating with parents, especially with PMLD students, is notoriously difficult. Saying that they're below expected, well, that's a bit of a given. But actually, the most important thing is that you've been putting them in a sensory room for 6 weeks and they move their eyes, and that's wonderful, and that's massive amounts of progress for them. And being able to show that is kind of important. So the bits that are important for parents are, what skills has the pupil achieved? What skills are they engaging in? What are their next steps? The visual representations of that, the graphs, the pie charts, things like that, and also the ability to share evidence. So it's saying, this is what they did, and here's a nice video of them being able to see that. There was a study done up in Nottingham. Some of you may be aware of it. They did a measurement of parental engagement. They graded parents from, I think it was A to F, as kind of, I think it went down particularly well with the parents. But what they kind of managed to successfully prove, or at least hypothesize strongly, was that parents that are more engaged with their students' learning had a greater impact on the child's learning, and they made more progress. It wasn't particularly fair for parents with multiple children, because they can't be in the same place at the same time. But the idea is that if we can involve them better and more, then the outcome for the child will be better overall. Okay, so which kind of brings us on to the other project that we were doing, which I think fits in kind of really well with the engagement steps. So we've got all those small areas of detail, and we can show very small amounts of progress. But actually, what schools have been saying to us for 20 years, they've been saying, you need to change this. There's some content that's superfluous, but also things like, hey, it would be brilliant if we could add a photo or add a video to that particular assessment point. And it wasn't suitable in previous iterations of our software to do it, but now we're kind of at that point, and it coincided quite nicely with the Rochford Review, was that our Evisense platform enabled schools to actually go a step further, to be able to link in to our connecting steps, to be able to take photos, to be able to take videos, audio files, documents, and attach those to particular skills. So the approach for Evisense was almost Facebook kind of feed. At the end of the day, connecting steps requires a certain level of knowledge. You're all teachers, and that's a kind of prerequisite knowledge that you have. Whereas Evisense, we wanted to make kind of easy to use as possible. And the greatest thing is when you use a familiar interface, then you don't require any training. So that's what kind of Evisense was for us. It was making it easy to use and also secure. The GDPR, which I kind of will just dive into very briefly, don't worry. And the GDPR kind of stipulates now to go that step further. It wasn't really a step further for us because we've always worked like that, but to have it written down and everything, it was important to be able to say to schools, your data is safe, and to be able to exhibit that. So Evisense kind of takes it a step further and enables you to show that progress, and also to prove that progress, and you can also filter it all out, and you can bring up all particular pieces of work, and it fits in really well with the EHCPs and IEPs as well. Okay. Again, GDPR, I cover it because it's important. It doesn't really matter how good our engagement steps are. If we didn't fit in with the GDPR, then you wouldn't be able to use this in the first place. We take security very seriously. We use tier 3 UK data centers. We back up every 15 minutes between 2 data centers. we encrypt at rest and in transit, as you would expect. Probably the bit that we have that a lot of people don't have is that we're actually on a ListX secure site. So we can't actually have people come visit us unless they let us know 24 hours in advance and they are escorted. So that was a big plus for us when we were looking to move. We wanted somewhere secure because, you know, we could have the best data centers in the world, but if we've got an unsecure office, then anyone can break in. So it took a lot of things away from us and a lot of weight off our shoulders. All our servers are in the UK. They are our servers as well. We don't sub-process. That may change in the future because of the way everything's going, but at this moment in time, we run our own servers, and we have a failover site in a different data center, which is geographically separate. It's located a great distance apart. And the final thing is kind of the contract that goes with kind of Article 28.3. There's certain things that we have to kind of put down in the contract. We've now done the uplift for that, so as far as we're concerned, we're kind of ready to rock and roll for the 25th of May. So you may want to feed that back if anyone asks. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is just kind of unmute the mic. Sorry, I had to mute them because, as I say, the previous webinar, we had quite a lot of background noise which interfered. If you have any questions, feel free to kind of ask them in an open session, or if you've typed them. What I'll also do is have a quick look through the questions that have come through while I've been talking, just to answer them. So yes, let me unmute now. Okay. There we go. Okay, yes, so we can hear people now. Right, let's have a look through any questions that were asked. Okay. So somebody asked, does the engagement steps fit in with our other stuff that we do? Yes, the answer being it does. We've put the 2p level, the equivalent 2p level overlap between our engagement steps and our progression steps, which kind of takes from equivalent P4 up to around National Curriculum Level 7. So there is an overlap there. And some of the skills you may find kind of link across. So what we do when we create a new breakdown is that we look at what skills we already have and we put them in, and where applicable, we put them in where applicable, so that skills can cross over between curriculums and between subjects as well. So somebody's asked, we already use B squared. Is this available to us now to use? Yes, it is. It is available for you to purchase if you so wish. Yeah, obviously an important point is we're still waiting on the government to formally respond on this, but once the trial's finished, if the government make any changes to that, then we will make the changes as we need to. We should have quite a quick turnaround on that. Does anybody else have any other questions? What we'll do is we can hang here for a little bit if anyone has any questions, or if you'd like to kind of finish for the evening and get on with your evening. I just want to draw your attention to my screen. If you want us to come and see you, we can come and see you. Obviously, what I've done today is a very, very brief overview of what we're doing and where we're heading. But feel free to kind of contact us, whether by phone or by email. You can do that. My contact details are here if you have any specific questions for me. And if you have any kind of really deep and meaningful detailed questions around kind of the content side of things, then Alex, who kind of heads up our education team, he'll be able to answer those. So you'll feel free to kind of email either of us. If you would like samples of the engagement steps, then please let me know and we can get those sent out to you. So we'll be happy to send out some samples to show you what the content looks like. Can also do online presentations, much like what we're doing now, but in a lot more detail. If you'd like to sign up to one of those as well, we can do that for you. And just give you a better understanding and a little bit of access to the system so you can have a look and see if it will work within your setting. We will be putting a copy of this video up afterwards, probably tomorrow at this rate, putting it up on our website tomorrow, so you'll get an email to say where it is, and it'll be part of a blog. And any of the questions that were asked today, I kind of put those on the site as well, so you have some sort of formal answer about what we're doing. Okay. But yes, thank you for coming this evening.